All right, let's do the fun bit. Let's get started. Hello and welcome this evening to Global Lawyers of Canada Virtual Mentor Office Hours. Tonight we are joined by Colby Sharma, who's joining us from the East Coast out there in Ontario. And he's going to be sharing a few different things with us. But first of all, we're going to get Colby to give us a little bit of his story so far, his journey to where he is right now. And I think within that, then we'll dig a little bit deeper. We're going to use the chat box. You guys can drop in questions as we're going, and then we'll get to like a Q&A point towards the back end of Colby's presentation. So Colby, I'm going to hand over to you.
Siobhan, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to join Global Lawyers Canada on this Tuesday evening, and thanks to your audience for coming out. I'm the author of a self-help book called The Curveball. I'm a law graduate from the University of Liverpool in the UK. Prior to that, I began my first years in the Cayman Islands, during my first years of law school before finishing in the UK. I've had a lot of jobs, not only in law, but in financial services with the Bank of Nova Scotia, founding a tech startup, and various many jobs in between, consisting of sales. But you know, this book is a real big passion of mine. I actually wrote the book after my first year of law school, more than 4.5 years ago, and I'm excited to. I published it October 13th, 2020, in the lockdown 1.0. And I'm just overjoyed the response and what it's allowed me to do, and the response it's gotten. And I'm excited to share the lessons with you guys.
That's fantastic. So Colby, why did you choose to go to law school in the UK? I mean, you were already here, you're Canadian.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, one of the main reasons was just convenience, though, and to see another part of the world. I mean, I started in the Caribbean, but that school was affiliated with Liverpool Law School. So there was a direct link between the institutions. And it would get me an accredited UK law degree. And so that was the first main reason. I think the second reason is to experience just another side of the world, to actually live there for a full year, to try to gain work experience over there. I had the pleasure of working at Irwin Mitchell Solicitors in Birmingham, where I assisted a lot on corporate projects, you know, in the time of Brexit, which is not something everyone kind of gets to experience. You know, it's pretty avant-garde and unique from a corporate legal perspective. So that's kind of the second reason. And, you know, I love UK culture. I have a lot of family in the UK, so it was kind of like going home for me.
And then you came back to Canada.
I did, yeah.
It didn't drag you in enough to stay in the UK? Like the pull to come back was enough to come back at that point?
Well, I mean, sure, I could have stayed there. I'd gotten a British passport at that time as well. But one of the main reasons that brought me back was work. You know, I was working on a project, a tech project with some friends in Canada. So that was like the main emotional drive for me to come back. And I wanted to also see my family here as well.
So tell us about that. So you are an entrepreneur as well as an author and a law graduate, but you also, you know, you're an entrepreneur. So tell us a bit more about this tech background that you have.
Yeah, I mean, we see tech eating the world, eating industries with the advent of legal tech in the legal profession, and also fintech and other areas, which have a lot of opportunity for massive disruption. You know, tech just spoke to me because I've always been a very creatively orientated individual, to see beyond the box, which obviously helps you in the legal profession. It's a very transferable skill. And it really forced me to try to bring something of real value that I thought was missing in the market, you know, especially also with this book as well, but with the tech endeavors. It was just an amazing leadership time. It was an opportunity to really enhance my sales skill set, to really hone in, to really collaborate with others, and to really just try to do something very innovative and very cool. We were at the legal innovation zone at the Ryerson DMZ, and that connected us with lawyers, you know, startup mentors, and other professional people to really get a sense for our product.
And do you think your law degree helped you with that endeavor?
Massively, massively. I mean, one of the underrated aspects of it is just how transferable it is to, to business and, entrepreneurship and other aspects of work that involve intellectual property. So it has a very good correlation to those kinds of disciplines. Um, it gives you just an appreciation for thinking logically, critically, and that is kind of very unique to what we study.
And so let's like fast forward a little bit. Or maybe not, maybe we're reversing because you wrote the book in your first year of law school. So how did the book come about? Where did you get the idea for writing a book from?
So, I mean, my dad, his name's Colby Sharma. He's a leadership author and motivational speaker as well. So that was the inspiration to do something in the written world per se. But in terms of my journey to write the book, I had a personal journey of adversity. I had a learning disability when I was a teen. And that experience was very fundamental into me writing the book because, I wanted to do something that, that really can touch a lot of people. I'm a big fan of the quote, what's most personal is also what's most universal. So if you went through it, guarantee other people are going through it right now. And that's not, I mean, COVID has really shown a line on that, the line between, mental health and, learning like issues and, other, issues related to caused by the pandemic. But I also played baseball as well. So I wanted to find a way to mix sports, but with, self-help as well. Cause that's what I knew growing up. I was in our house. That's what we talked about. My dad was a profound influence in terms of how to actually go about writing the book. For years, if you want to see, this is what the cover looks like. And, I saw him teach me and show me, the ropes into how to do plot, how to do storytelling, how to do all that other stuff. But what really kept me in the zone and kept me in the game was my personal journey and what I personally wanted to share with the world, with a lot of people at an extremely difficult time in the world.
So tell us a little bit about this book. Why should people read this book? How is it going to help them?
For sure. So, I mean, this book really has timeless lessons for a very timely moment in our world today. This book is a short, accessible read that contains really 4 powerful, lessons and signposts about, adversity, turning adversity into your greatest opportunity and persevering through challenges step by step. That's one of the key, selling points on the book is just how, accessible and easy to read it is. I mean, there's not many books that in just over 100 pages share such powerful wisdom. And it's also told in a fictional tone as well, as opposed to nonfiction, which, from the writer's perspective and certainly from a reader's perspective, is a fun and engaging way to shape actual life lessons. But going through people in this licensing time, especially in COVID, especially in the pandemic, this book really can provide you with the inspiration, the hope, and the tactics you need to take, what you're facing, maybe the lack in the job market, maybe, an inability to connect with people because everything's virtual if you're in another part of the world. But, I want to share lessons in this book that can really help change your perspective, change how you feel about yourself, and some really hard-hitting lessons can really help make a difference in your life right now.
So can you share one of the tips that you give? So not to give away the entire book, because otherwise there's no point in anyone buying the book, but can you give us one of the tips that maybe some of the people on this call, or maybe they're watching it later on recording, that they could maybe put into action right now? I mean, as you say, like right now we're in the middle of a global pandemic, everybody's working virtually, jobs are a little bit harder to find right now. I'm sure we were talking about this just before we came online. The jobs are scarce, and especially if you're an immigrant or you're recently returned back to Canada and you're trying to break into an industry, you don't necessarily have that network because you haven't been here for a long time. So There'll be something in that book you can sneakily give us that can help people.
Sure. So, I mean, as the second lesson of the book at page 43 of the curveball, the importance of choosing your pitches, choosing your responses. So this really came from Freud, the tension between the heroic self and the egoic self. So what I mean by ego is a manifestation of a mask that really we carry within ourselves in time where we feel scared and we feel fearful. And that really prevents us from self-reflection, going through challenges just really incrementally, step by step. So how does this apply practically in our lives? So the importance of asking for help, the importance of, embracing what we don't know. So we might be an immigrant coming to Canada. We might be, okay, so we don't know how the legal profession, in Toronto, in Vancouver, in Calgary is gonna respond to us. But that shouldn't stop us from having a positive outlook on, a new, exciting moment. We have the ability to come to a country, awash with opportunity, not only in fintech, not only in, mining and engineering in the western parts of of Canada, but there's so many tips we can practically do to really help us get a foothold in the market. So the first thing is look for virtual, mentorship sessions. Really be active on DMs, really be active on Instagram, really try to do a lot of video engagement. Because I found in my personal, journey so far, video has it almost has a more than 70% engagement when someone opens a video email or a video message on LinkedIn. So that's the first really actionable step we can take when we're talking about breaking challenges down incrementally. So it's the video one. The second one is, how can I retool my resume such that it is responsive appropriately in this domestic legal market? So there's so many guides we can have online. There's the McGill Guide to Writing. There's the University of Ottawa Faculty of Law Common Law section guide on how to actually write a resume, what a Canadian resume looks like. So those are the second actionable steps we can take. And more information and what I share with how to change your responses is found at page 43 of the curveball. As I also would like to share at page 67 of the curveball, remember your rituals. So rituals are simply those deeper habits that we take that really switch off the stress response and to switch on our higher performance response. So as I shared, page 67 and 68 of the curveball, when the going gets tough, the tough return to ritual. Some of you may be asking, what is the difference between a habit and a ritual? So just taking it generally, a habit is something that is done just to get to the furtherance of that end goal. So maybe you'd like to lose some weight. Well, it's a habit to go to the gym and eat healthy. Obviously, this pandemic, maybe it has triggered our junk food response, but that's something that can be modified, not too much of that. But in terms of a ritual specifically, well, prayer is a ritual. Mindful meditation is a ritual as well. Going for a walk is a ritual. Getting on a virtual office hour and making a virtual connection is also a ritual. Checking with a friend is a ritual. So those are deeper tactics we can take that can really help make a difference for us. I'd say the final thing, and it's linked to that at page 79 of the curveball, is, we don't want to lose sight of what is the bigger picture here. So it's really important for us to really, switch off the ego, switch off that, people might not appreciate our differences, because we all have value to bring. We all have that special sauce within us. We all have something very important. If you speak another language, if you come from maybe India or Africa or maybe China, those are, certainly skills and attributes and characteristics that you could really work on selling yourselves in the domestic market, especially for the, multinational transaction-oriented firms.
Very good. I can see people taking notes. Funke's always taking notes. She's always got a pen there ready. It's like the writer in her on this one. So how, like, I am not a writer at all. How do you even go about writing a book?
Perseverance, hard work, and motivation, right? I mean, Dan Brown said something very profound. He said, everything that's been written has been written before. You just need to focus on your how and your why, and let that keep you in the moment and keep you going throughout the process. I mean, I wrote the first draft of the book summer 2016. It wasn't published more than 4 years later. So, I always had this file on my computer, but really what kept me writing was, I'm doing this for someone else. I'm doing this for someone that, that was in my shoes, that might have a learning disability, that might think low of themselves, that might be struggling with low self-esteem, maybe mental health. And that's what kept me in the pocket. I was able to, graduate from law school with honors. I was able to, get, some, pretty high profile jobs with the bank, etc. But I came from somewhere though. I came from somewhere and now I'm here. And, I was able to succeed, as I share in the book, I was able to succeed because of adversity, not in spite of it. And that's what really just kept me grounded. That's what really kept me, kept me going. The second thing, and she speaks to the importance of failure, but Margaret Atwood said this very well. Fail and fail again, but this time keep your failures getting better and better and better and better as you move through the drafts. I'd say the final thing, and this really helped me, especially as the book went on to publication, was the importance of a beta group. So it was a group of 7 people around me, friends, family, that I could give the manuscript to and just got their thoughts, what they thought of it. And I just made a lot of fundamental edits at that stage as well. With the content, with the tone, with the characterization, to really just keep making the book better. And that was an underrated part as well, because I was determined to do everything I could to further this book, to really see it as a defining moment in this pandemic, timeless lessons for a very timely moment in our world today, where everyone across society, from the busy, managing partner to, and everyone across society, kids, teens, young adults, can take something very powerful from this book. So yeah, those are, I'd say one thing finally is, the importance of incrementalization, removing outward perfection at the expense of inner reflection. I could have said summer 2016, I'm just a law graduate. I'm just a first-year law student. What the heck do I know, about writing a book? My first book, my draft won't be anything special. It's not Dan Brown. It's not, John Grisham. It's not any of those law-turned-writers. But it's okay, because I had something profound. I had a personal experience that I really felt others could benefit from and others could be going through.
And how are you taking that experience and other experiences and turning it into furthering your legal career?
Well, one thing, it's helped me really, with attention to detail in writing, attention to detail in terms of presentations, really being logical, really appreciating the importance of sharing a story. That's an underrated tip as well. Sharing a story in whatever written, work you do, because that's what's really going to engage people emotionally in whatever you do, because that's a fundamental transferable skill across society. But it's really important in terms of client work, in terms of presenting within your organization as well.
Fantastic. I know you're obviously wanting to stay in Ontario and not move out west,
Potentially. I'm tired of all this Ontario restriction.
Yeah. And what do you see, when you're telling your story and you're sharing it with potential employers and then potential clients as you go forward, what's your elevator pitch?
Well,
Pitch.
for sure. So if my elevator pitch is really, I'm a creative, out of the box, forward thinking individual that can really bring, attention to detail skills. It can really have, I really know how to think outside the box. That's, I'd say, what's my sort of elevator pitch.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited to read the book.
And in a practical sense, I mean, the book is the new business card. So it's nice to, like, here's a side book. Thank you so much for doing X, Y, and Z.
That's a good way to, like, stand out. You submit your resume along with a copy of the book.
Yeah, exactly.
You have more questions about me. Read my book.
And I'd say what people appreciate, and this is in the lawyers I've spoken to. I'll be speaking at my first ever LSO accredited workshop in June. But people are appreciating that this is an individual that cares about people. Where this moment is heading. Everyone's fed up with isolation and lockdowns and restrictions on movements, and what that does. And how do I turn this curveball of adversity into my greatest opportunity? Because fundamentally, we're all seeking optimization. We're all seeking a way to better ourselves, to come out in the new world beyond this pandemic in a much more greater sense of self, sense of being, and sense of purpose, fundamentally.
I agree. There is so much opportunity to come out of the hardship that has taken place over the last year for so many people. And it's nice to hear that there is some positivity out there and you can spin some of those challenges into a benefit for people. So does anyone have a question for Colby? Any comments? Even if they're super technical, about how did you get your book published? Or how did you get the book accredited by the LSO? So for anyone who doesn't know, the book has been accredited by the LSO for CPD points, or CLE accreditation, which, for those of you who don't know, here in Canada, as part of your licensing requirement, you are required to do continuing professional development for a certain number of hours every year. And this can be done in a number of different formats. And I've never heard of a book being accredited that you get points or hours for reading a book. So how does this work?
Sure. Ask. Remove the ego and ask. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. Asking them and convincing them on what makes your value proposition. How are you going to drive value for the market? And that's what I did. I said, I have a piece of work product, a piece of IP that can really be very beneficial to lawyers, given the mental health challenges in the community. That's the big one, because it was framed as a wellness pitch, and how the book and the lessons can really help people mentally and with their wellness at this time to succeed. And which further has a knock-on effect on your effectiveness as an advocate, as a barrister, and as a solicitor.
Fantastic. I love, like, the synergy here is where we loop back to earlier. You were talking about how needing to, or how you've developed those marketing skills. And here you are, just, showing some of those marketing skills and some of those transferable marketing skills that you'll be able to, you put into place using the book, but you obviously developed during your entrepreneurial tech portion of your life. And then later on, hopefully you'll be doing that as you build your book of work, as you become a lawyer in Ontario going forward. So it's nice to see how those transferable skills really are transferable through different parts of your life so far, in a very active way. Because I know when we talk about transferable skills, sometimes everyone's like, what is a transferable skill? How does that really work day to day? And here is Colby giving us a prime example of one of those transferable skills through different stages of his journey so far, and this journey is only just beginning as well on that one. So there we go. Okay, that's all you gotta do is ask. Remove the ego and ask when your book is ready, and let's see what happens on that.
Yeah, I mean, for the ITLs, like, it's important, to ask. can I, sit down with you for a virtual coffee? Do you mind looking at maybe, a law review article I drafted, the draft or the manuscript or something like that, that really people can know your personality, what you're about, what value you can offer. And then that's the start and the bridge to a more fulfilling conversation, maybe when you come to Canada or when you already are in Canada.
And so talking of adversities and ITLs, and you're going through this right now, you're actively looking for that entry-level position into the Canadian legal market. What are some of the challenges that you're personally finding? And then have you been applying any of your own techniques that you talk about in the book and putting those into practice to help you? Or have you struggled at some stages with those techniques too yourself?
Well, I'd say the sort of like the main kind of resistance and the roadblock that I've faced and others have faced is, and this is something that really got me down, is because I didn't really appreciate, just how big of a numbers game this actually is, just how many applications you really have to do. And the fundamental thing is embracing, when one door closes, another door really does open. The one thing that really gets people down is, the mental aspect, the toll it really takes on you, the amount of, going again and again and again in pursuit of that opportunity. So that's like the first thing you really need to kind of really get over. So when I say choosing your responses, is choosing, I can choose to operate from, pessimism and regret and negativity, maybe regretting the fact that, I should have stayed in Nigeria if someone's from Nigeria or India or the UK. But, I'm here now. I'm fully determined to make the best of it as I can.
Yeah, that's great. I know that's a conversation that many ITLs have with me, is that numbers game and that appreciation of, or the realization that it is a challenge. There are a lot of people applying for positions, of a limited number of positions at any one time. And it's good to hear the positivity that you're finding through the journey of those no's, because there is a yes hiding behind that no somewhere, and a no doesn't necessarily mean no, it just means not now. And that's something that I took away through the process. It just wasn't the right time at that point for things, and then eventually it was the right time. You just keep knocking on those doors. But what else would you like to share with us, Colby, on your journey?
What else would I like to share?
Or questions for the audience. Throw a question back at them if you want.
What I'd love to hear from you guys. What challenges are you facing? Where are you currently in the process? You know what a CQ is?
All right, I think Param might have a question for us. His hand's up.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Siobhan. Hi, Colby. This is Param.
Hi, Param.
I'm from India. I migrated to Canada in 2014. I'm done with my NCAs. I have my CQ. I got it in December 2020. Thank you. So I'm actively looking for articling positions right now. And I'm working in technology, actually. So that's how I was excited, right? I have my undergrad degree is in technology, and I have like 15 plus experience of working in technology. Yeah. So right now I'm with Workers' Compensation Board here in BC. I'm working in their technology department. So I'm actually very fascinated by one of your comments, like ask questions, right? And I'm actually wanted to know from you, like how you were prepared, right? I mean, you must have been exploring so many different areas before you approached LSO as well to, get this thing done. Like, what if in case like you hear no, right? It doesn't go through, but you really want that thing done? How would you prepare yourself, right? Mentally, I mean, like, what kind of things you would tell yourself? Like, oh, okay, this avenue didn't work out the way I expected it to. How do you get out of it? What things you tell yourself? Like, what tips would you share?
Well, I mean, rejection is temporary, right? Rejection is temporary. And that's what I mean by, blocking out ego. Because ego is a blockage to really saying, what are the actionable steps that this moment is trying to tell me? And, I'm not going to get down on myself. I'm going to realize that, there's other maybe organizations and other people that would benefit from the message and would benefit from what I'm really trying to share. So I think it's really important to stay crystal clear on the value that whatever you're doing brings to whatever organization. For myself, the LSO, it was the value based on the work-life balance and effectiveness in the legal practice that really got them convinced. So I'd say the first question to ask yourself is, this rejection is just temporary. The second question would be, plan out a list of maybe 10 stakeholders, 10 organizations that you want whatever project you're working on to be there. So if one fails, what are the 9 backup options? I'd say the third option is to, maybe we really need to revisit this. Maybe is this not the right time for that? And that goes to ego, that goes to, choosing to how do we calibrate our responses though? Because the one thing we have to remember, and, I'm going to borrow this from William Ernest Henley, but, it doesn't matter how charged with punishment the scroll, I'm the master of my fate and I'm the captain of my soul. So I'm in charge of whatever direction this is going to be, how this is going to manifest in the end goal, but I'm not in charge of that. I'm just in charge of incrementally going through the process and breaking it down into very actionable bite-sized pieces.
Awesome. Okay. I think, yeah, those are pretty. And another follow-up question to that, like from these, I mean, you could write anything, right? Like, how would you judge or how would you figure out, I guess, like this is something of value? Is it just like your gut feeling that you're relying on, or would you seek, some feedback maybe from your coworkers, maybe from your teammates or your friends or somebody else? Like, how would you judge that or make that decision?
I looked at my dad's work. I looked at, how many people embrace that work, that work of self-help. And then I just went about deconstructing my own journey, my own story. It just so happens that, with the pandemic right now, self-help books are really on the rise. So I knew I was coming into a very fertile market at a very fertile time in the world, with people struggling with isolation, mental health issues, this entire curveball of the pandemic. And right, how do we really calibrate ourselves to find deeper levels of grit, resiliency, to really live that life and to really win at the game of life. That was very deliberate also from the title of the book, a curveball, which is an unexpected path that life throws you to really show the character that you possess. And that's what I really sought to do with this book. Okay,
so I don't know, a follow-up question to that. Like, let us say if in case COVID wasn't here, how would you have then pitched this book? Like, would you still go with the same thread? What I'm trying to understand here is what kind of motivated you, what led to the decision, like, okay, my journey is something which people can benefit from, right? What was that final decision, right? That triggered that, okay, yes, I have something here in draft and I think this should go out, and this would, I know this turned out to be a perfect timing for the book and the title, but what, gave you that instinct, yes, this is what people would need, right?
I just wanted to share a story. I didn't care, how it was received, because you really can't control that, at least on the onset. So I was a 1L that wanted to tell a deep story based on a personal journey and a personal passion of mine, and that I lived in my life. So irrespective of how many people bought it or how many people engaged with it, I wanted to do it for my own self. And, maybe doing some market research ahead of time might have helped, but, I was confident in my own, journey as an individual to really make these lessons have a lot of value and a lot of impact.
Got it. So that was the, like, what do you call it, like the pushing point, or like the where you got the confidence. Like, I have gone through this, and it was the inner instinct. Like, people can relate to this journey, and they can probably learn something from it. It wasn't necessarily like, just to sell or something like that, right? You just wanted to share.
It was a personal individual with a personal journey.
Sounds good. Okay. I think, I was just trying to think like, sorry.
And if I may add, that's where we do our greatest work.
Mm-hmm.
We do our greatest work by focusing on what's most important to us as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
What am I trying to really get out here? What am I really trying to share and shape with my message, though?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so important, as young professionals, certainly young lawyers entering this process is, what am I going to do that's deeper and personal to myself, though? Am I going to do, 10 different areas of law? Or am I going to focus on the ones that are deeply personal and important to me? Whether that might be criminal law, whether that might be, pro bono legal aid, what it might be duty counsel, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the personal motivator to you? For me, it took a lot of journeys. I'd said to a lot of people I want to do criminal, when really the real answer lay in corporate, IP, and technology. And really being crystal clear on that was and is very important. I'd say, that ties into, and this is linked to the book as well, but it's embracing true and authentic self. So there's a Japanese proverb where the Japanese say there's 3 faces that man has. One to show to friends and family, one to show to the world, and one that's kept hidden in a box and never sees the light of day. And I think it's fundamentally important that we really embrace, especially in moments of challenges and adversities, true and authentic self-reflection, really choosing to pursue meaningful personal projects at the expense of what maybe the external world thinks of it.
Got it. Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think you can't beat honesty and authenticity. That I think everyone would. It's easily relatable, I guess, right? As human beings. Yeah. Thank you. That's awesome. Wonderful points.
Thank you.
You make a great point about how originally you thought you wanted to do criminal. You told everybody you wanted to do criminal, and then when you really dug deep into like what drove your passion, you found that actually it was more the business oriented type practice. And I think that's something that so many of us as ITLs, we come over, we go through the process, and we're like, I'll just take anything. Give me anything to be a step on the ladder. And that's where we lose sometimes who our authentic and true self is, because we become so swept up in the need to just go through the process and get it over and done with as quickly as possible so we can move on, that then we almost forget what the joy was for us doing law. Why did we want to practice law in the first place? And this might be a great opportunity to try something new. I'm all for that, but it's so great to hear that you found through this process your true self and your authenticity, and you're showcasing it, and you're now following that passion with that. Does anyone else have any questions for Colby? Any comments for him?
Just adding on to what Siobhan just said, I mean, we want to surrender, to the moment, surrender to adversity, surrender to what the present conditions are trying to show us, shape us, and teach us, though. But we must be wary about surrendering to overwhelm, surrendering to a false expectation of perfection. Like, if someone wants us, that might be guiding us to apply to, every single job under the universe, rather than just being, a bit more mindful and deliberate and focused about what we're really trying to get here. What are we really trying to do?
Very true. Very true. Okay.
So for me, I can actually tell you that I live your book, right? And when it comes to I got my CQ December 2020, and by March I had my articles. I had secured articles, and some things that played into it was, one, the resume. The person that retooled my resume and cover letter to secure this, to apply for these articles, because I also saw it on Indeed. It's somebody that graduated like 10 years after I did from the same school in Nigeria, so, and then when I secured the articles, my practice in Nigeria was business law and real estate. When I got here, I said I was ready to do anything just to get a fresh look at what's going on in Canada. My principal is into bankruptcy and foreclosure. And in attending the court sessions and going through, the documents and all that, that's like a mix of business law and real estate, actually. When you look at, foreclosure issues and all that, So for me, I can say that your book actually makes a lot of sense, a lot of meaning. And for Param that asked about how after you're rejected, you're able to handle the next application. What I had to do was treat each application as if it was the first time I was applying for articles. And what you said about mentoring, Joe Bad would confirm this, that I'm a dedicated attendee of the GLC webinars, and I try my best to do precisely what they say. And everything I heard from GLC throughout last year were part of what played into securing my articles. So I tell people that it took a village. It took a village. I can't tell you the only part I played. Yes, another part that I played in it was when I was in Nigeria, my career wasn't too lucrative. But to continue to hone my skills, I kept serving people as a social enterprise. That means some people were able to get services without payment, and some people were able to get services by just covering their costs, direct costs. Now I'm articling with a public interest law clinic. So you can imagine that, and then, so you can imagine that the things I did in Nigeria and how I did them actually play into what I'm doing right now. Because we're not serving clients, we're not doing trust accounts. So we're not serving paying clients, right? We're helping people and all that. So, I think that's the only thing I can say I brought to the articles. Every other thing, securing it took a village. So your book is very practical and makes a lot of sense. I can attest to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Funke. Great to hear that.
It's always nice to get feedback on something that you've been working on, especially when you put so much of you into it. Feedback is fantastic. So thanks, Funke, for sharing that. I'm sure Colby's sitting there, his head's growing nicely bigger in the best possible way right now when you get feedback like that. So guys, any other questions for Colby? Anything you'd like to share with the group? It can literally be on anything you want that you think.
I want to maybe do a check-in. I should have maybe done this originally, but how is everyone feeling? Show of hands. Who's feeling good about where the market is right now? How are you feeling about this pandemic more than a year and a half into it? What's your sense right now? I want to hear from you.
I'm feeling more positive given that I got my first vaccine.
Woo, same. Woo. What'd you get?
I got Pfizer. That's what they were giving on the day. I didn't care. I just asked for one that would work. So I was like, give me one that works. And I have to say that since I got that, I'm feeling much more positive than I probably was 10 days ago.
Totally.
It's funny how one thing can really just flip a switch on how I'm feeling anyway. Even the sun, if it's shining in the morning, that can make me feel so much better than if it's raining.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I think things are going to get better just from reading the news and stuff. I think, the US is always a little bit ahead of us, and their unemployment rate is, pretty low now. It's not pre-pandemic, but pre-pandemic they were it was super low there. But I mean, their unemployment rate's 6% now. And I don't know what it is in Canada, but I think just from reading the news, it's better. I know I've been getting I just had an interview last week and stuff. And so during the worst part of the pandemic, no interviews at all. It was just rejection, no interviews. So, I've been getting interviews towards the end of the pandemic. I registered to get the vaccine, but I haven't got a call yet. So I don't know. I think they're getting better just from what I read in the news and stuff like that. So
The mood is changing.
yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. That's the same feeling I have. This can't be lasting forever. I think
Yeah.
that was my mindset. Like sooner or later, it's gonna get over. You just need to be patient. Like play the waiting game when it is done, right? And wait for things to get back to normal.
Totally. But you know, I mean, I think a lot of it is, you know, there's a hunt for pre-pandemic normalcy. You know, there's a kind of a, you know, a really deeply human rush for bad times to be over. And I think one of the key things we need to keep in mind is, you know, what can we gain from this time right now? What can we gain from it? What, you know, what can I maybe do differently that I didn't do pre-pandemic? So how does it help me just slow down and think and be with myself and be with, you know, primal emotions again, and really work on, you know, my thinking, but, you know, how I control my responses. Because, you know, as I say at page 43 of the curveball, you know, it's so important to be deliberate in how you think, feel, and act. And that's something, you know, the mentor tells the main character in the book.
That's definitely something that I am taking away from this last year, is that I'm being more deliberate in what I'm doing. I'm being slower at what I'm doing. So I'm not trying to cram every single minute of every single day. I am appreciating the nothingness that's in my calendar, and I'm gonna fight really hard to keep that going forward. I am not ready to rejoin the pre-pandemic craziness that was my life. I'm going to embrace the slower way of doing things and being much more mindful about what I'm doing. And also the ability to connect with all of you, because pre-pandemic, so much of what we did was literally face-to-face, in person. And the last year has enabled me to connect with so many people virtually through platforms like this, and learn so much about other people and other people's journeys and stories. And for me, that's something I want to continue being able to do. Not in maybe the quantity that I've been doing the last year, whereas seeing all of you each week, but definitely something I want to build into what I'm doing going forward.
Same here, Siobhan. I feel the same. I think the pandemic has been a blessing in disguise for me. Otherwise, these virtual events or meetups would have been really tough based on my, like, the regular job that I do. Like, I finished my workday at 4, and it was a 1-hour commute. I wouldn't have been able to join or do all these sessions. So right now, and I have 2 toddlers to take care of in the evening. This is like perfect setting for me. I'm utilizing it to the fullest.
I think what this pandemic showed is, like, you know, it's never been easier to tap in to another person, though. You know, technology, just by one Zoom link, you can reach anyone in the world. So I think that's an underrated, you know, aspect, certainly from the job hunting perspective.
Yeah, I'm glad that it pushed, because there was actually no great reason for us not to be doing a lot more like remote stuff and Zoom stuff earlier. And the pandemic just pushed, you know, companies to start doing things remotely and electronically, like interviews and doing remote work, which is, it's better. It actually opens up more jobs for people in different areas. And that should have happened way earlier, but it didn't, just because a lot of corporate culture, especially in the legal world, is slow to change. And that is actually one positive that did come out of the pandemic, was that technological change. I'm definitely grateful for that, actually.
Well, I mean, this is a great podcast I heard, and he said, you know, these changes weren't new to the pandemic, but the pandemic was an accelerant shift. You know, e-commerce was already bubbling along, but pandemic massively skyrocketed e-commerce, for sure.
Definitely, and I think it's really gone to show how we can make things so much more accessible for so many people. I've spent quite a bit of the last year talking to people who have all sorts of commitments and different situations, whether they be, you know, physical, mental, family, geographical situations. And this year has really opened up some of the accessibility to them. And I hope that when we come through the other side, whatever is on the other side, we don't lose all of that accessibility, that we keep as much as possible for people, that we don't go backwards. And we take that technological leap that we've taken this last year and we keep it going, and so that more people can be involved and be an active part in our communities more.
Yeah, 100%. Can't agree more.
Mhm.
So Raffleson, I'm going to put you onto the spot right now. How is your day going, your week?
Hi. So my day is going good. So it's been busy, yeah, but yeah, it's been good. And this pandemic as well is a blessing in disguise for me because I made a lot of progress in my training as a lawyer here.
So good.
So at the moment, I'm also looking for an articling, and I'm working on my practice readiness at the moment. So on May 10, we will start our workshop.
Which province are you joining us from?
Oh, I'm in Alberta.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Have you taken advantage of Prep's resume service?
No, not yet. So
Definitely
I'm
look
looking.
into that. Look into
Okay.
It's they offer it for all their prep candidates. So for anyone who is a prep candidate in any of the provinces where prep takes place, they do offer a service for resumes, and they also have a job board as well. So it's worth looking into that, because you may find there are people who are posting on the job board through prep that aren't posting anywhere else. So it gives you a little bit of an advantage over other candidates if you're looking at that job board.
All right. Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I always love the fact that so many of the provinces and the territories have different processes you have to go through. So even though we're all in Canada and we're all joining from across Canada, like literally coast to coast right now, everyone's going through a slightly different process depending on where they are. And it's quite interesting to see how all the law societies do it differently, and what's involved. And there's some quite interesting things coming out of prep. For sure. And then out east, I know there's people on the call who went through the Ryerson LPP program. And then Colby, did you just tackled the NCA exams, right?
No, I got my CQ January 2021.
Okay, but you did it through just doing the NCA exams. You didn't do the LPP?
No, I just did the exams.
Exams. So yeah, there's lots of different routes that everyone can take. And then here in BC, we get to do PLTC, something for you, Param and Zach, to look forward to. It's joy. It's joyous. Yeah. But it's a good way to meet people. And they've also made that virtual right now.
I heard it is useful, that it's you do learn a lot, actually. I don't know if that
Yeah, you do learn an awful lot. It's very dense. There's a lot of material in a relatively short period of time. And it's, I guess, could be simulation of what practice could be like, all these different competing demands on you at the same time. It's just very stressful 10 weeks, I found, for me.
Did you do it virtually, Siobhan, or did you do it at the Law Society's office?
I did it at the Law Society's office.
Okay. Do you know anyone who did it virtually? Is it any different by any chance?
I know some people who are currently going through it. I guess it would be different doing it virtually, because when you're in person, you're in a physical classroom with the same cohort of 20 people for the entire 10 weeks. So you get to know those 20 people quite well, because you're in that one room every day for 20 weeks. Whereas if you're doing it virtually, you're basically sitting on a WebEx or a Zoom call, and then working on your own. So you don't get that sort of collegiality in that same way, which maybe isn't such an inconvenience. Like if you went to a local law school and you're going through the process here because you have your peer group right here. But if you're an ITL coming in who's been studying for the NCA exams on their own, they don't have that community group of peers around them, maybe it's a little bit more challenging, and requires a bit more effort.
that was my experience. I mean, I only did one NCA challenge exam. The rest I did through, Osgood had a distance learning program, UBC had a distance learning program. So I think that's one, thing to really keep in mind. What are the different options for us out there? There's not just the NCA challenge exams. And I'd say the importance of, reaching out, for guidance to others, reaching out for help, not just with how to write an exam, but, if you have mental health, an issue, if you have like a wellness issue, very holistic to just keep that all in perspective.
Yeah, because sometimes, you just need to talk to someone who is going through the similar thing as you at the similar kind of time, right? Because, I mean, you may have your spouse, you may have your parents, you may have, the guy who lives down the corridor who you chat with, but sometimes you just need somebody who is going through a similar situation to you, who doesn't necessarily need to give you an answer. They just need to appreciate what's happening for you right now. And hopefully GLC can be that part of that group for everybody, and we can connect you with other people who are going through a similar process. So Pram, that's a good idea. I should get somebody who's going through PLTC or just gone through it virtually to come on and maybe like share their experience of what it was like to do that virtually, because I have no idea. I was the last year where you could actually write an exam using a pen. Now it's all done on a computer. So that's
Pram, whereabouts are you in the process?
Me? I have done I got my CQ in January, February. I completed exams in December last year. So I'm looking for articling positions right now in BC.
Nice.
Preferably paid articling positions, I should say.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah,
don't take the unpaid one. Hold out for the paid ones.
I think they're all paid now. I think didn't Law Society of BC pass a resolution where they have to pay minimum now?
No, not.
It's not passed that you have to. It passed that they would discuss it and it would go to the next stage. But this is a contract, right? When you enter an employment contract, it is a contract, and the very basics of a contract are. Anyone know what the basic contracts are? Offer, acceptance,
consideration,
right? And I'm a firm believer and a strong advocate that people should be paid for their work. We are in a training program. That's what we are going to do. So it will be less. It won't be the full amount because you are training. That's part of the consideration in exchange. But there should be some payment involved.
But you'd be surprised, I mean, that's awesome that BC really seems to take that into account. In Ontario, it's not really like that. I mean, Ontario, it's very much people sense an imbalance and are going to really try to capitalize on that imbalance, I think, to the detriment of the applicant. I mean, so many people I know are taking unpaid jobs. There's one girl, she's working very hard, but for $250 a week, and that's really nothing in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it's definitely not a rule here. It's definitely there are many unpaid positions here in BC. I don't want to give anyone the idea that they're all paid, but there is a wave going through the Law Society and through the members that there should be remuneration for people's time and effort, and it. That comes with it a responsibility, because if you're a principal, you have a responsibility to the next wave generation of lawyers coming through that you're training, because they are going to be the future lawyers. So they're working on it. It's very slow progress, but it's going through on that one. And all credit to those members who put forward that resolution at the last AGM in BC. You can read about it if you go onto the Law Society's website. It has all the information on there and things. But we are rapidly running out of time. I know it's getting very late out east. It's getting darker and darker in the background of Colby's screen there. To see the lights turning on in the buildings in the background. Does anyone have any final questions, comments, concerns, anything they'd like to share? Otherwise, I'm going to hand over to Colby to wrap up for us with his final closing remarks for this evening.
Oh, no questions. I think the session was really excellent. Thank you, Colby, and thank you, Siobhan, for this. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Meeting you.
Excellent. Thanks, Perez.
Thank you, Colby. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Funke. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
All right, Colby, to you. Final remarks.
I feel very sad that I joined late, but thank goodness Siobhan is so good at recording. So I will get to watch the replay for the part that I missed.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for spending your Tuesday evening with us.
I'm still bummed that I didn't get there from the beginning, but I lost track of time. That's the reason why I was late. But I'm also excited to read your book because I haven't got to that as yet. I've been getting books from the library on skip the line, so I've been racing against the clock to finish books that I borrowed. So yours is definitely next in line, so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I mean, it was great, you know, the bits that I did catch. Yeah, that's
awesome.
just what I wanted to comment.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What book are you reading right now?
So the book that I actually just started is called A Well-Behaved Indian Woman.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting book. I've literally like just started. So I guess I'll let you know how it goes.
Sounds great. Please do. In terms of, you know, final remarks that I'd have, I'd say, you know, as I shared to open the book, sometimes we have to lose something to find everything. And I don't advocate that in any detrimental sense, but I advocate for that in the sense of, like, you know, sometimes we need to be humbled and taken down a peg, faced with that rejection letter, to really find what makes us special, to really find our voice, to really find true passion, you know, true career success, you know, because this is a long game in our careers. But I'd say that's, you know, very important just to watch for. And if you experience it, just know that, you know, it's not temporary. Rejection is not temporary, and the pain you feel is not temporary. I'd say the final thing is just find ways to chase impact. Whether, you know, to chase impact, that's one of the things that I journaled for 2021, but, you know, just to chase impact, whether it could be something small, you know, obviously, you know, Prem are Indian, so we understand the concept of seva, whether it's, you know, a pro bono, you know, a volunteer scheme, anything you do to really bring impact is something that will really serve you very well. In terms of final remarks, I'd say you can find me on Instagram at Colby Sharma Official, Facebook, The Curveball 426, LinkedIn, Colby Sharma. You can sign up for my exclusive mailing list at colbysharma.com, where you can get just access to me, myself, touch base with me, connect with me. I also want to share that I created a course based on the book where, you know, it's for $27 and it really just goes deeper into it. And, you know, one of the good things with that course, if you buy the course, you have the opportunity to gift the course to someone that really is in need of it. So that's on the website on the course tab. Finally, you can buy the book on Amazon in ebook, paperback, as an audiobook.
Look at all those different ways you can connect with Colby. So if you're not already connected with Colby, you have no excuse now not to connect with this man. Colby, thank you so much for sharing. I want to go read the book. You've inspired me. I want to go read the book. I was like, before I was like, it's a baseball book. I don't know. It's really my thing. Like, I'm going to be honest. I don't understand baseball. It means nothing to me. It's just, I'm a cricket fan. Okay. Like, I just, but now I'm going to go and read the book because there's more to it than baseball. So I'm intrigued. So thank you for sharing your words today. Thank you for sharing your journey. I wish you the best of luck with the next phase of your journey. And I hope you'll come back and share progress with us as you go forward.
Absolutely, Subhan. It's a real pleasure to join you guys on this Tuesday evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity with Global Lawyers Canada.
It was a pleasure having you. Everyone else, thank you so much for your contributions tonight. It was lovely to see you all. If you're watching this on record, please do get in touch with us. Please let us know how you're getting on. And we hope to see you very soon. We do have a session booked in for next month, I can tell you, is May the 20th, and we're going to be looking at private placements. So it's an introduction to private placements in Canada. So if you are vaguely interested in corporate law or business law in general, you're not going to want to miss that one. You can find details on glcanada.org, and you can register for that one now. Everyone have a fantastic rest of your evening, rest of your week, and please do keep in touch.
Bye guys, take care.